So if you get the hook right and you get their curiosity and they say, well, it's less than 2 minutes, I can give them 2 minutes kind of thing. That's kind of the mindset when you're doing cold traffic on YouTube that I found works really, really well.
Welcome back to the Teach Traffic podcast with myself, Ilana Wexler. This is a show where we reveal the best tips, tricks and tactics to increasing your website traffic and then converting that traffic into leads and sales. We also discuss what's working right now in the ever-changing world of web marketing so you can apply it to your business. Welcome back to another episode of Teach Traffic. I'm your host, Ilana Wexler. And I know it's been a little while between episodes, so my apologies for that. It's been a bit of a busy time for me. But I've got a really good episode for you today. And we're going to be talking to a friend of mine called Patrick Kenney, who is also a data person, but also a copywriter. I'm talking to Patrick all about how to write the perfect YouTube ad script. I've been getting really into YouTube ads and having great success with it, and I know firsthand just how important a good video ad is to the success of your YouTube ads, and inherent in a good video ad is a good video ad script. So I've brought Patrick on today's episode to talk about what are the components of a good script. What are the critical elements that you need in your video ad? If you've considered YouTube ads, and even if you haven't considered YouTube ads, I definitely recommend listening to this because I pretty much guarantee by the end of the episode, you're going to want to give it a try. And I can certainly attest to the good results that we are getting for myself and also my clients. I'm going to make a resource available for you for this episode. So don't worry if you're listening to this when you're out and about and walking. You can download the show notes so you don't have to furiously write down notes. So you can download the episode show notes at teachtraffic.com and you can find the episode there. And I hope you enjoy this episode.
Thanks you. Yes, I speak well for writing scripts. Thank you, Ilana, for that introduction. It's been a long day here. It's almost 7 p.m. here, so if I have a slip up, you'll have to forgive me for that.
No,
but thanks for the intro.
I totally get it. It's only 10 in the morning for me. It feels like it's been a long day already, so at least you have an excuse. Thank you so much for staying into your day for longer than you probably want to at 7 p.m. and coming to talk to me all about YouTube ads. We're going to talk all about YouTube ads scripting, and because it's so important, having being someone who's done YouTube ads for quite a while now. Before we kind of get stuck into a lot of the nitty gritty about YouTube ad scripts and the components that make up a good ad, I'd love people's stories. Do you want to kind of tell us a really quick version as to how you got where you are today and,
Sure.
and your background and stuff?
Yeah. No, it's I love to talk about myself. No, actually, I'm getting more comfortable telling the story because people are like, oh wow, you came from that kind of background. You and I have spoken offline where we have a similar background of, my background is computer science, so data kind of being the background. I worked for Xerox when it was ACS, so ACS Government Systems here in the States. It was purchased by Xerox. I worked for them pretty much out of college and did the whole corporate engineering thing, building apps, all that kind of good stuff. And really, kind of doing the corporate gig. Didn't really love the gig, but I loved the projects that I got to work on. So diving into a lot of Oracle forums and a lot of .NET, C#, that sort of thing, just kind of geeking out on that kind of data. And I had an opportunity to leave corporate and work on a project building a custom app, and kind of got the entrepreneurial bug, if you will, or the bite, as some people will say. And, serendipitously, that first project involved scraping Google AdWords, which it's Google Ads now, but it was Google AdWords back in the day. And that was kind of my first introduction to the Google platform. And it was just all the data behind it and all the analytics stuff, all the stuff that we geek out on really just kind of caught my eye. And as I worked with freelance projects and got referrals from one client to the other and whatnot. I ended up doing custom development for a number of years. And I kind of got, it's funny, I kind of got tired of dealing with clients who would spend all this money on a project. You know, they'll spend 50 or 100 grand or more to have this application built and then go, oh, we need to go get some customers. So I was like, okay, well, hey, thanks for that. So I have always had a love of psychology, of like why people do what they do. And so I started to consume, Dan Kennedy and Claude Hopkins and, all the great copywriters, just learning persuasion and it's Cialdini's, Persuasion, the Think and Grow Rich, all the stuff that motivates people to do what we do. And I found I really enjoyed that. And so with my tech background mixed with my appetite for psychology and persuasion, it was a natural transition for me to start running these campaigns for people because I knew what would convert, but I also knew and understood all the systems behind the scenes. I understood the data and the servers that were running the data points and all that stuff. So that's a little bit of background of me and how I got to where I am, and the rest, as they say, is history.
Yeah, nice. It sounds somewhat similar to my journey, actually, from a data background to then, suddenly I'm a marketer writing ad copy. But yeah, there's still, it's that wonderful marriage of the numbers with the psychology. So I can appreciate your love of both, because I definitely feel we share that, we have that in common. And as you and I both know, this landscape is constantly changing. And I don't know about you, but over the last, I guess, couple of years, I've seen a structural shift in where people are putting their advertising dollars. And, Facebook ads had such explosive growth and people were doing amazing things on there. But personally, what I've seen is a shift away from Facebook ads back to the Google Ads platform, and specifically YouTube, which is obviously what I've brought you on to talk to about today. And big name marketers are really shifting their ad budgets towards the YouTube ad platform. So I want to kind of touch on, I guess, let's talk about the basics. And obviously I know a lot of them are basics, and I can kind of obviously share my insights as well. But why do you see this big shift towards YouTube now, and what do you think is so attractive to people on the YouTube ad platform in comparison to what they were doing on Facebook?
That's a great question, and that's one I've answered quite a few times in the past few months. And personally, I'm kind of happy to see that because I've never been a fan of Facebook, just the premise of it. But I think that is, removing my own view of Facebook from what's going on and analyzing it just as, just being agnostic in the situation. It's, people don't enjoy Facebook. They just don't. Like, they'll get the dopamine hit, but they'll go there and the fear of missing out and seeing people put on their best face, and then there's all the data stuff, all the bad rap going with social media. That contributes to it. Yeah, well, and I was going to say that you put the words right in my mouth. It's it's a sticking point. Like, the first thing, like, Facebook comes up, and you're like, oh, the trolls. I think for business people, I think that's the biggest thing. When I talk to people who want to come in and do YouTube ads, I'm like, well, if it's working on Facebook ads, why do you want to come away? They're like, I don't want to spend 12, 14, 16 hours a day or hire people full time just to play whack-a-mole to get rid of these troll comments from people that have nothing better to do than just hate on my ads.
That's right. And these keyboard warriors who are so tough behind a keyboard, but if you actually confronted them in person, would never be as aggressive. Don't get me started on the trolls.
It's so, and again, so it's we're both having a visceral response to it because you've advertised on Facebook, I've advertised on Facebook, and I mean, I'm happy to say I'm not gonna say I'll never go back. But if I do, it will only be for remarketing. But even then, there's no promise that I'll ever go back to it. Yeah. But to answer the other part of that, why is YouTube such a great opportunity and the best opportunity? I think it's because the platform is expanding, as you know, faster than we could advertise on it. You have this runway that is continuing to pave miles in front of you, whereas gosh, I need to write this down as to who said it, but it was Facebook ads was compared to, it's like a Ferrari on a 2-block road. You can get going really fast, really quick, but you run out of road very quickly. Whereas with YouTube ads, if you do the work, it's a little more complex. But if you actually do your homework and set things up properly, you're never going to run out of real estate virtually.
And that's because so many people are just uploading videos all the time. It's like,
right.
That's right.
Yeah, the real estate is expanding faster than we could, for what is it? I think 500 plus hours of content every minute now.
Something insane like that.
Some ridiculous number. So, in context for anyone listening to this, it's like if you do targeting of certain placements of videos that are popular and you look at the trends and, you're never going to run out of content to pre-roll your ads on. You're never, like, you could just target Gary Vee and knowing he's pumping out content, and you're always going to have new videos to put your ads in front of. It's a really unique opportunity right now for anybody that's looking for another platform.
And I would add to that as well with when you touched on the fact that if you do your homework and you set it up right, it can be amazing. And that's what I personally love about it as well, that there is a little bit of a hurdle, and that's sort of a little bit of a moat around you as an advertiser, because there is a little bit of that work involved before, because that's going to eliminate, I think, 75% of the other advertisers that throw a bunch of spaghetti against the wall
absolutely.
on Facebook, show ads to their existing customers because they don't know how to exclude audiences and all this kind of stuff, make all these classic mistakes as such,
right?
And because they get results, and therefore you're somewhat protected as, from an advertising point of view.
Yeah, to add to that, that's a great point, and it's something. I was talking with a client today about it, where we talked about this offline. It's just like I'm wrestling with a client to follow the practices, but where it's do the work, do it properly. Don't just throw spaghetti at the wall. I mean, that's gonna be one of the things where people are like, oh, I've got to put the work into YouTube. Well, that's great, because most of the lazy marketers are going to I've got to create a video, and then I've got to put it on the channel, and then I've got to click extra buttons. It weeds them out, where the people that have the long-term mindset where they're going to actually invest in the platform and know that it might take a little bit longer to get traction, they're going to set things up properly, and they're going to be the ones that are just crushing it in a few weeks' time.
That's right, because I'm sure you know firsthand as well that the YouTube ad platform, once it's humming along nicely, it's incredibly stable, actually. And you don't experience the fluctuations like you do with Facebook ads, where one day you're absolutely killing it and you feel like you're a hero, and the next day, literally the same ad completely tanks for no apparent reason. And you just don't get those wild swings in fluctuations on YouTube, I find, especially with a certain type of targeting that you do, which we will talk about. And I think that's because I'm of the belief that not all clicks are actually created equal, So if I put myself in the mind of someone on Facebook, they're standing in the coffee line waiting for the barista to make their coffee, and they're passing the time as they're scrolling through their news feed, right? And they click on your ad, right? Yeah, cool. It's a cheap click. But then contrast that to somebody who's actually researching something on YouTube. They're actively kind of going through the motions of searching for a solution to something. That click personally is worth way more to me
way
than
more,
versus the person standing in the coffee line,
Yeah. Absolutely.
Who's forgotten about what they've registered for, never opens your email again. Like, it's a much better customer or subscriber or whatever,
Well, it's the old interruption versus search intent. I mean, it's you get someone like, oh yeah, and then and I joke that someone opting in for a Facebook ad, it's like, well, oh, they didn't finish the thing. It's like, well, the light probably turned green, because here in the States, if you look around, everyone's staring at their device at a stoplight and doing anything but paying attention to traffic.
Totally.
So, yeah, it's you talk to people. I'm sure you talk to people all the time about this. Where like, oh, the cost per click is this. And I have this conversation all the time. It's like, great, but what is the actual value of the opt-in? What is the value of this type of customer? It's many, many, many times more than Facebook. And I have not seen a case in any niche or industry that I've worked in to where the value of a Google-based subscriber is not a multiple of a Facebook subscriber. I've yet to see that.
Yeah, I agree with you. Okay, so hopefully we have excited our listeners as to the prospect of YouTube ads and sort of why they, I guess, and I would say also it's probably not for every kind of business. So let's maybe sort of touch on, in your experience,
Sure.
what are the perfect kinds of businesses to advertise on YouTube?
Info marketers, people doing webinar registrations, coaches, consultants, people who are not in sensitive industries like medical, where Google has certain policies where you can't do certain remarketing based on restricted content. Personally, I enjoy working with coaches and consultants so that they can, turn things into an info product or get clients that way. I found that to be a really good niche that I'm working in. Mm-hmm. So copywriters, things like that, service providers, really great for YouTube.
Yeah, cool. Alrighty. So why don't we get into the whole writing of the ad thing, because I think that's a big hurdle that people really struggle with. And obviously you being a copywriter, this is exactly your area of expertise. Do you want to kind of go into some of the basics that people need to be aware of before they even hit the record button on their ad? What's something, obviously they've got to prepare. So what's the first step for people who's like, yep, I'm in that industry, YouTube ad's going to work for me. What's the perfect ad?
So I was thinking about this in how I was going back through like how I go through this process with clients. And it starts with writing an actual sales letter before you record anything. Because oftentimes I've had a client go, okay, here's the video, and they'll want me to do an ad for an hour and 40-minute infomercial. Oh my God. Well, let's get them interested and have micro commitments first. So I would say anyone starting out, at least in my experience, and you can chime in and tell me what you think on this, but I have had success with doing micro commitment videos, which are sub 2 minute. Okay. So I found that there's something with seeing that one on an ad. So like a minute 59 to where they go, it's kind of like $99. It's not $100. It's $99. Right. So it's like when they see that 159, it's like, oh, it's only a minute ad. I can see what they're talking about. Yeah. So if you get the hook right and you get their curiosity and they see, well, it's less than 2 minutes, I can give them 2 minutes kind of thing. That's kind of the mindset when you're doing cold traffic on YouTube that I found works really, really well. But before you even get to the point of doing the actual video itself, write out your message. What is your hook? What is the transition? What is your actual offer? Why would when you read this out loud to yourself, would you be interested in learning more about that? And I think that's a critical step for anyone that wants to create a video ad that will work, is to do the homework of, okay, what am I trying to get this person to believe? How can I hook them? What's a story that I can tell that would get them excited about the thing I want them to believe? And then transitioning into an invitation to click the ad to check out the thing I want them to check out.
Mm-hmm. Now, I think for most people listening to this, they're not a copywriter and they might struggle with coming up with a hook. Do you have any tips around how you can really kind of almost like separate yourself from your business? Because I find that's what people really struggle with. Is so in their business that they can't really kind of take themselves out of their business to go, this would be enticing for my target customer. Do you have any, tips on how people can really perfect their hook?
Well, so we sell things on belief. Okay, so like if we have our widget to sell, so just taking the whole YouTube things out of it and looking at, okay, if I'm going to write a sales letter for someone, what is the one main thing that you want someone to believe with what you're trying to put in front of them? So you're paying for the eyeballs to either read your message, listen to it like this podcast, or watch a video ad. So oftentimes people will try to get people to believe, 3 or 4 different things in a message, and that's where you'll get this drop off. So if you have one thing where it's if you're this type of person, so this is a 5-second hook kind of model going, if you're, let's say if you're an ideal customer, so if you're a single male under 50 who would like to get married within the next 2 years without going on dating sites and crazy apps, this will be the most important message you'll see all day. Here's why. Right. That would be a hook. You're speaking to the person about their desire and the pain they want to avoid to get the thing that they desire.
And
Okay,
the
so
fact
that
that if I'm a 20-year-old female listening to this and I go, no, I'm not a, whatever age group male, this does not apply to me, I will
right.
stop paying attention. I've sort of disqualified
Correct.
people.
Correct. You have to be polarizing. Absolutely. And so the hook, the headline will qualify. And so in a video, the first 5 seconds needs to be the headline that you would see in a sales message. A really easy formula is how to yay without boo, how to get the goods without the bad, right? So in the video ad, they would be, hey, if you're this type of person, and hopefully your targeting is on point.
Yep.
So it's like, if you're this type of person, then this is going to be really good for you. This is why. So you're kind of hooking them with that. And because oftentimes people will talk about, so we'll talk about a dentist for an example. They'll say, $79 cleaning, come down and get your teeth cleaned. Okay, well, a good barometer of if it's a good offer or a good thing you want them to believe is, would this person wake up in the middle of the night going, gee, if only someone would run an ad to me offering me a $79 cleaning, I know that I wouldn't have any tooth pain, right?
Said no one ever.
Said no one ever. So, in video ads and sales letters and emails, this is anything. It's like when you're coming up with the one belief to write about, what is waking that person up at 3 o'clock in the morning? And how can you tie your offer to that belief that they have or that fear that they have? That's a really good way to start your message. You're calling them out because you know what their pain is. Because when you're talking to the person's desires or fears, you can then use your service, like you can have an offer around your service to transition the belief that your service is the only way that they can get the thing that they desire.
And
I know it's a little deep.
Yeah, no, sorry to interrupt you. I was just going to say, that's a classic copywriting technique where you're talking to people's fears and what wakes them up at night, and pains and frustrations, versus their wants and their desires and their goals.
100%. And we see this I'm sure you see this all the time too. You can just go on YouTube and see the ads where, the first 20 seconds is like, Liberty Mutual in the States does this. They have they do all this setting, and there's bamboo and there's the whistling, and it's like, skip. And they wonder why the, $2 million a month YouTube ad budget is not working for them. Yeah. They're not speaking at all to the desires of the market. Yeah. That's another example for insurance. I mean, have you been sold insurance before?
I mean, sure, only because I've needed it, not because I've wanted it.
Well, that's true, but the really good insurance agents, at least here in the States, are the ones that tell the story. So rather than like, would you like to buy life insurance? It's, let me tell you about a married couple, and where the husband died unexpectedly and his family was stuck. Like they had, they were scraping by. The wife had to go get a full-time job, and there was no safety net for this unplanned, death in the family. Yeah. Right. That story is what connects. So the one belief in that, out of telling that type of story, is, I need life insurance. So for people to simplify this, for anyone listening, really, if you want to simplify it, the easiest copywriting technique is you have one belief that you can tie your product as, making that true, right? So it's like, okay, if I believe this to be true, I'm going to get this thing because I need it, right? So the technique is, what's my hook? What's my story? And then what's my offer? Okay.
So they're the three main components that you would cover within the 1 minute 59 second video. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. As you and I both know, if people, the first 5 seconds are non-clickable, and we're talking about the in-stream ads, the videos that show before the video you're about to watch. So the first 5 seconds are non-clickable. And then between the 5 and the 30-second period, if they click skip, as an advertiser, you don't have to pay. So I'm sure you would agree with me. That is the time period to pre-qualify people to say, if you're interested in this, or importantly, if you're not interested in this, to skip past. So obviously you don't have to pay. I'm assuming that's what you do as well.
It's excellent branding for people listening who have not explored YouTube ads. That's essentially, it's not 100% free, but that is the best opportunity for free branding you could get. Yeah. By putting your message inside of 29 seconds, and then all the other cool things we can talk about later, because I don't want to get into remarketing. We probably don't want to get into remarketing. No. But getting that in under 29 seconds, there's a lot. Look at Super Bowl commercials here in the States. It's like $3.5 million for a 30-second commercial.
Yeah.
And they get a lot in. You could do a lot in 30 seconds.
Provided that your video actually provides some level of branding in there. Because some people I've seen don't even have any branding. It's just their face with no logo, like nothing, which is, I think, a missed opportunity as well,
It is. You should do a checklist of all the. Well, actually, you probably do have a checklist, I would imagine.
I'm currently working on it as we speak. Have you been reading my mind? No.
It's needed. I need to do one as well.
Yeah.
It's just like, nope, okay, you need to do this because it's repetition every time. Like, what do you think about this video? Okay, you're missing a logo. Your lighting is bad. You need to do this. It's like, oh, okay. So
yeah.
I think I'm just going to send clients a checklist.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so back to the components of the ad. We've got the hook, and then you've got the story. What kind of story, do you have any sort of, I guess, tips on? I think it's best explained, if we explore this with an example, okay? So you said you work with coaches and consultants. Say you're a coach that helps people, get good results with LinkedIn, for example. What is the kind of video ad that you would write? So you'd write a hook about, hey, you interested in getting good results with LinkedIn. I'm probably butchering this, but and then a story about how that particular person's helped someone get results with LinkedIn, and then a call to action. Is that kind of how you'd approach it?
Yeah, I'll give you a really simple framework that your listeners can write down. You can easily do this inside of 2 minutes, where the hook and the curiosity are easily performed within the first 30 seconds. It's called the POSER method, POSER.
Okay.
And it stands for promise, obstacle, solution, example, and then reach. Which reach is just the result you want, the call to action, the thing you want them to do.
Okay.
So it would go something like this. It would go like, you could do the hook on the front end and go like, hey, it's Patrick Kenney. If you're an info marketer who would like to scale sales fast, this will be the most important message you'll see all day. See, the challenge that we have as marketers is that if you're running the Facebook ads platform, you never know what your leads are going to look like from one day to the next, let alone your lead costs. Now, the solution to this is to explore the YouTube ads platform, which is a much more mature platform because it's been around longer, and Google hasn't invested 10 times the budget of Facebook to make sure the stability of their platform is ensured. To give you an example, I had a client who transitioned from Facebook ads over to YouTube ads. He was getting a $19 cost per lead on the front end, and with the exact same offer and landing pages with a tweak on his YouTube video ad, we brought him down to less than $3 for a higher quality lead. So if you're struggling to get results with Facebook ads, I invite you to check out YouTube ads. You can go here.
Nice. So POSER is the promise, obstacle, solution, example, and reach. Yes, did I get that right?
Or just the call to action. You might be easier to say a result that you want from them, which in this case would be the click.
Yeah. Definitely need a call to action. I'm a big fan, actually, of kind of what Tom Breeze does of putting a countdown timer at the end to give people a chance to click. I really like that. I've implemented it in my ads and split tested, and it's definitely worked better. I don't know if that's what you do.
Oh, that's a great. I haven't tested it. That's a great idea.
Yeah, you should. So just a countdown from 5. You don't have to count down from 10, and just gives people a chance to kind of go, yeah, I want this, and it's like, So yeah, definitely check that out. It's cool. Got that from Tom.
That's a great idea. Thanks for that.
No worries. Alrighty. So I'm sure people who are listening to this are thinking, oh my God, okay, yeah, I'm inspired, but do I need to hire a production company to create such an amazing ad? I know the answer to this, but I'm interested in your thoughts about the quality of the video.
Well, I can tell you that my best converting ads for my own stuff is from my iPhone 11 versus the studio stuff that I've tested. So no, you don't need a studio. You probably have one in your pocket. In my opinion, I believe I've seen the ones that I've compared some production versus just the regular grassroots, like looking at your iPhone, and 99 out of 100 times the grassroots ones with your iPhone convert better. at least in my experience.
Yeah, that's what I find as well. It's funny, like I've got one ad which I, you know, I mean, I look at it and I still cringe. It's like, it's terrible. But
Yeah,
yet,
right?
but yeah, and I've created other ones since, and no matter, I still can't beat it. I still can't beat that first one that I think is terrible. But, you know, the data speaks for itself, you know, like
It does.
I know
Yeah.
I've introduced endless new split tests.
Like, come
And
on, beat it. Please, let me
I
take it
know.
down.
Well, because I want to take it down. It's just like, it's embarrassing. I'm like, it's filmed on my balcony. It's like really sunny. I'm squinting,
Yeah.
and like it's shocking, but it just works. I mean, no one's more shocked than me, you know. It's pretty
Well,
funny.
it's real life. In studying, objections people have to buying and doing surveys and things like that, the stuff that's really produced, like you're sitting in front of a desk with a nice suit on and things like that. Yeah, you'll get results. I'm not, for anyone that really wants to do that, yeah, it can work. But again, you're validating what I see as well, is that, if you just take your camera out and get over the fear of being on camera, because we all hate how we look on camera. It took me a while to go, okay, I'm going to mess up. I mean, just even out of the gate in this podcast, we're going to mix words. We're going to, this is real life. As long as you can provide value, nobody's going to care. They're going to look at it and go, wow, that's a real person. Like, and they're just here to help me. Like it adds a level of authenticity. At least that's my experience.
Totally. And I think it's funny because I've thought about it, because if you asked me before I was running traffic there, I would have thought, no, production will win, But then I thought about it afterwards. I think, well, think about all the vloggers, and the success with the vloggers. Like, that's, people are used to that on the platform, it being more native and it being less polished. So that's, yeah, I guess people, even whether they're watching an ad or a video that they want to watch, it's all really, in their backyard, in their living room kind of videos. It's perfectly acceptable there.
Unless it's here in my garage with your Ferrari, like a certain marketer that
Yes. Oh,
everyone loves to hate on.
oh my God. Don't get me started.
But even still, love him or hate him, Ty Lopez did that as just a grassroots video. It did
Yes.
better than anything else he's set up. When you love him or hate him, that just proves that even the big guys, like Frank Kern is another example. He'll tell you the ones where he's like in the pool or his kids are running around behind him. Those are the ones that always convert the best.
That's right. It's very relatable.
It is.
They don't feel like they're on this pedestal and they're so polished and it's inaccessible,
Yeah, I agree.
Alrighty, so let's get back to the scripting point of view.
Sure.
And how it, I guess, marries to the targeting. Personally, for me and my clients, I've had the best success with keyword targeting on YouTube. So someone who's actively going to YouTube for search for information on whatever topic. And I think it's worth mentioning how you would incorporate a script to match that possible keyword intent.
Yeah, so I have this. I mean, early on it was called the 5.1 method because you have to put names for everything. But the catchier name I have now is triangulation. It's basically just so people can kind of visualize the triangle of medium, where it's you have the topics that are being searched on, the person as they are consistently. That's in the YouTube, Google Ads world, that's affinity, as you know.
Yep.
And then the events that are happening in their lives. And it took me a bit to condense this down because there's so many things with like custom affinity, custom intent, all these other things you could kind of just, you could do all these different things and kind of just, waste a lot of money or go crazy in exploring all the options. But it came down, I created one sentence, and that is, what is your who doing and why? Whereas your who is your target customer, your ideal customer. So that would be the affinity. So what is your who doing? So they're searching for how to get clients or how to get sales or how to get relieved of back pain or how to lose weight, whatever, and why. And the why would be the event-based stuff, which is the in market. So if someone is, looking to lose weight, well, maybe they're getting married. Maybe they went to the doctor and got some bad news. Any number of things. So I think for anyone listening, I've had clients go through this exercise, and it's like you can kind of see the light bulb go on, because then when they answer that, I'll circle the 3 different points and I'll tie it to, okay, this is in market, this is keyword, this is affinity. And they go, oh, okay, that makes sense. So then when I tie that to the copy specific stuff, I really have, I have, it's that 6 elements, one of them being kind of the meat content, but you have 5 different intros, channel specific. So you're talking about keywords. I'll tell you what I've experimented with and had great success with. Obviously the keyword is the best, because if someone's searching for how to get clients and your video that shows them how to get clients goes, hey, are you a business owner looking to get clients? This is going to be really a helpful thing for you to see. They're going to go, okay, and they'll continue to watch. Yep. Another thing is, if someone is watching Gary Vee videos, if you just make a subtle change to like, hey, it's Patrick Kenney, and before you watch another Gary Vee video, I have something really cool to show you.
Nice.
And you're tying that to channel specific. Now, the keyword, you're obviously going to get more volume, but if you actually go granular to channel specific, then you could get some really high quality people who are already bought in. You tend to get the association by osmosis. I forget the trigger it's called in psychology, but it's like you're automatically inheriting their credibility, where it's like, oh, well, he knows to put his ad on my Gary Vee video. He must be like Gary Vee. I'm going to go, or whatever. It's like, oh, he's got his videos in front of Brendon Burchard. That's pretty cool. Let me check this out.
Yeah.
So just a subtle tweak of knowing your targeting and having different intros. The meat of the content will be the same. So you would say the same thing in all of those videos after the hook. But I found great success in channel-specific intros and also in situation-specific intros, where if somebody's in the market for a good one is SEO and SEM services. So if you sell any kind of B2B for like advertising or what we do, having something where it's like, hey, if you're struggling to maintain a healthy return on your ad spend, this is something cool you might want to check out. I've had good success with that as well.
Yeah, nice.
But I agree, keyword is the absolute best. That's the juggernaut.
I'm amazed with it, actually, at how good it is. And for certain types of businesses where there obviously is active intent on YouTube for that kind of stuff, I find them, as I said earlier on in our episode, they're a much better subscriber. They're more engaged in the emails that we send afterwards, etc. But I personally never tested different intros based on the different level of either the channel or intent. So I definitely might incorporate that into the mix if I can find a way to beat my terrible video that's currently performing really well.
Well, I can give you a content creation quick little hack if you want.
Sure.
Don't want to really call it a hack, but a little thing you can do. So if you write out your sales letter, so wear the same outfit, and then record the intros with a little, like, put a break in between. And what I've done for clients is I'll do like a logo transition in the middle where they'll be like, hey, this will be the most important message you see all day. Here's why. And then it'll transition, do like their logo, just like a half-second transition. And then it goes into the meat content, which is the rest of that, like that poser method. So only the intros are changed out. So if you record 5 intros, you just do those in one shot, and then you do your best take on the rest of the content. And then you've got, 5 or 6 different videos from one kind of main offer with different hooks in front of it.
Yeah, nice. That is awesome. I reckon I'm going to do that. Thank you. And actually, one thing that I use, I don't know if you use, is you can imagine you write these scripts and suddenly you're like, oh my God, how am I going to remember this? So actually, there's an app that I use. It's a paid app called Teleprompter. I don't know if you've ever used it.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
On my iPhone, and what's cool about it is that you can obviously load in your script and it will scroll through like a teleprompter, but you can skew it all the way so it's right next to the camera and it does not look at all like you're reading. And it saved me so many times because I used to, believe it or not, I used to memorize the script. And so hence 50 different takes because I've completely butchered it. I've forgotten something. So this way you can really pump out lots of videos really easily. Do you use something similar?
Well, I don't. I've used it before, but I found for me, I tend to be, hi, if you would like to make the monies, then I tend to get a little, I don't know if it's the
Robotic.
left brain, right? Yeah. So that's why I like the poser method so much, because if I remember five main points, I tend to just out of practice transition effectively through those where it's like, okay, so the promise is I'm going to show you how to get all the clients and customers you could ever want using YouTube ads. See, the challenge we have is, so when I get in the habit of just kind of memorizing that template, then it's like when I riffed on that earlier, I wasn't reading from a script. That was just off the top of my head because I record that so often. And I also kind of like I train clients who are like, oh, why don't you do this for me? And then I'll sometimes dub over. But that's a great idea to do the teleprompter. I'll probably have to give that another visit because as I get into some of these longer videos, I can't I can't just wing it like the 2-minute videos. So I'm gonna have to give that one another go.
Yeah, well, because the only reason what pushed me over the line with getting it was that I sought the help of someone to write a script, and it was actually quite a long script. Ended up being 7 minutes long, so really long because I wanted to split test, short video versus a long video, right? And actually teach something in the video ad itself, and therefore I really needed a script. But then now I use the teleprompter for the short scripts as well.
Yeah, a friend of mine recommended that. So, I mean, actually, I believe I have it on my phone here somewhere. I've just been milking the poser formula as much as I can. But I'll definitely give that one another look. Another thing for people, this made me just think of something. For people who are averse to getting on camera, just like, I don't want to do it, it's just not going to be on camera, using something like Easy VSL works really well. Having an animated, like the text being like reading the text as it's prompted and transitioned over screen. For someone who's listening that says, yeah, I'm just not going to do camera, to talk over slides. It works well.
So I've never heard of Easy VSL. What's that?
Easy VSL, I'm not an affiliate or anything like that. I've just used it before. It's good you can take your script that you're going to read and you can put it in the software and compile it, and it will you can read over the script. It will sync up your voice with the slides and put nice little transitions. It makes a really professional, elegant like slideshow where it shows like certain bolded words, and like for the kinesthetic viewer, they can read the text and listen to your voice reading over it. And when you're actually making the video, you just record yourself reading the script and you're not worried about your face on camera like you're looking at a teleprompter.
Yeah, nice. I will definitely have to check that out. What are your thoughts on the whole mobile versus desktop for YouTube? Are you of the frame of mind of, do you create a mobile specific ad and a different one for desktop? Do you go down to that granular level? Or what are your thoughts on that?
I've had great success with just targeting mobile for the bumper ads, so like the 6-second videos.
Yep.
Getting someone like, hey, I didn't know she checked out my page, didn't download it. Click here to go download the free book, right? So doing that mobile only, up and down, like the 4x4, I've had great results with that. I don't get too specific on the cold audience stuff other than just doing bid adjustments where, obviously, I think it's like 70% of the traffic is mobile. I'm getting more into split testing, just versions. Like I'll take something that I shot in landscape and I'll just cut it 4x4, just cut the sides off of it without shooting it specific.
So to make it square.
Right, just to make it, or was it 4x3? I forget the exact dimensions, but yep. Whatever so when I make it mobile, and I see a difference, and most of the stuff comes from mobile anyway. So, but I'm seeing some interesting data on purchase, like closing the window of purchase on desktop. So I tend to bid that up a bit more.
What I'm finding interesting is I also do bid adjustments for device. So for listeners who don't know what we're talking about, it's adjusting the bids based on a device. So typically mobile gets more traffic, but some people argue it's of a lower quality because maybe they're more browsing or less likely to convert. So people will generally bid more for a desktop because that person is more likely to do what you want them to do. They're in the frame of mind. So that's what we're talking about, bid adjustments. So I find there's a big difference in obviously impressions and clicks from both devices, but yet I get just the cost per lead is the same for both. It's like a mystery, So anyway.
Yeah, I mean it's negligible. I mean, I definitely see a bump doing the bumper ads. I don't know if you've done much with those, but the 6-second ads are just to close down the buying cycle, knocking off, say example, you have a 14-day buying cycle where, and for those listening, but what I mean is if it takes from the first time they see an ad to actually buying your stuff is 14 days, I've found the bumper ads can knock several days off that buying cycle.
Interesting.
So they're definitely worth looking into. And, it's interesting to look at, and the numbers on these are negligible. It's just like, I'm a data nerd, so I get in going, oh, can I shave, 6% off of this? It's the whole thing of like small hinges, swing big doors. But looking at the buying cycle for desktop versus mobile, and how can I see a correlation through that? So that's kind of been the extent of my messing with that. I just find that Google's AI is it's so smart. I don't really have to mess with as much as I used to.
Yeah, their AI is pretty crazy, which was what we are experiencing as well. Someone might be thinking, how long would they, if someone's new to YouTube, they're going to give it a shot, how long would you recommend people persist with it? If, like, let's say for the first couple of days they're getting nowhere, it's just spending money and they're sort of starting to kind of sweat a little bit, going, oh, I don't know if this is working. What's your advice to someone in that situation?
My advice is not to look at it like a quick win. I did this presentation a couple weeks ago in Austin, and I had this epiphany of how could I get people to really invest in the long term? Because I know, it's like stay the course. The first week is probably going to be a bit challenging because the AI is learning all the things about your pages and your offers and who's viewing it and all this stuff, and it's making changes. And I came up with this bit for taking personifying Google's AI. Look at it as when you create your ad account, Google is basically giving you a virtual assistant. And give him a name or give her a name. Name your Google AI and treat it like an employee. So if you've ever tried to bring on a virtual assistant, you would give them more than a couple of days to learn about your business and learn about your processes before you'd say, you know what, you're not worth it, goodbye. So I would encourage people to look at it like personify the Google AI, give it a name, and invest. In the presentation, I said, look, invest $1,000 minimum for the next 30 days. Because that's what you would pay for a part-time VA in most, so if you got a Filipino VA or an Indian VA, $1,200, maybe $1,500 for the first month. Well, you need to train them properly on your business before they can actually hit a stride. And, I'm sure you and I both dealt with people that'll hire a VA for a few days and fire them because they didn't, make it rain for them. But the real business owners that are listening to this, like you make an investment in an employee, it's going to take some time for them to ramp up. I would encourage you to look at the Google ad platform in a similar way. It's going to take a little bit of time and investment on your part to really dial it in. But once that machine gets efficient, once you get all the rough idle out of it, it's such a juggernaut.
Oh, absolutely. From my own experience, when I started my YouTube ads a while ago, we were just doing manual bidding, which is not really leaning into the whole AI thing. And literally, as soon as I switched over from a bidding point of view, so not telling Google what I'm willing to pay for a view, just telling Google this is my target cost per acquisition, really leaning on their AI, the results were I should show you the chart. It's insane, the difference in performance when I just made that switch over. And as you say, gave Google a little bit of rope to learn who is the person who's more likely to convert. And then, it just came into its own. It's like hitting fifth gear on a highway. It's just like, boom,
absolutely
away,
Yep. Yeah, it's really something to see. And it's, the clients that get it, you kind of see them sweat for a few days. And I can tell you right now, I have a client that is spending north of $70,000 a day. And they have someone else managing their search, and I'm managing all of their YouTube stuff. And I properly set up the targeting, like a target CPA. I did all the best practices on YouTube. It's, it's not rocket science. You follow a process, it's going to work.
Yep.
And you can see it's getting a 3-to-1. So for we're doing purchase conversions on their product, and it's a mid 3-digit product. I'm getting purchases around $85.
Wow.
And on the search, they're getting them for almost $400 because their search person isn't following the AI practices. They're doing like enhanced CPC and whatnot. So, I mean, the contrast is fantastic.
Yeah.
When when you let it do its thing, it is fantastic.
And coming back to what we touched on right at the start of this episode, where you said the platform is ever expanding, that's why you're able to spend $70,000 a day on there, because there's not this limited amount of ad inventory that's just getting rained upon like Facebook with the newsfeed, for example, which is like walking down Times Square, right? There's only a certain number of buildings that you can put your billboard on, versus a city that just keeps growing and growing and growing with more potential ad inventory.
Yeah, it's like the ocean. It's whether you show up with a Brinks truck or a spoon is totally up to you. If you want to spend $100 a day, they're going to maximize your return for that. If you want to spend $1,000, great. If you want to spend $1 million a day, granted you get into some other larger worldwide inventories, but it's going to operate in a similar way.
Yeah.
And I love that, because it's not like you're talking about with Facebook. You double your budget and then your cost per 1,000 triples or quadruples, and then that doesn't happen with Google Ads.
Yeah. Awesome. Alrighty. Well, hopefully we have given people a good taste of what is possible on the YouTube ad platform. Do you mind sort of letting our listeners know where people can find out a bit more information about you if they want to work
Sure.
with you more closely, and where can they sort of find out more information about you?
Sure, thanks for that. Yeah, if you want to download my guide, you can go to getyoubooked.com. So Get You Booked, as in YouTube, GETYOU. And if you download that guide, you'll see I have the full script examples in there. So if you want to create your own video scripts with different intros, I've put all my best stuff into that PDF guide. Download it, and just promise me if you download it, you'll actually implement.
That's the key, isn't it? Awesome. Well, Patrick, I feel like I could talk to you for a really long time, but I am mindful that it's probably 8:00 at night now for you, and I wouldn't dare take up any more of your time. So thank you so much for
My pleasure.
Agreeing to come on, and I look forward to chatting again in the future.
I do as well. Thanks so much. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks so much for listening to the Teach Traffic podcast. For more information on each of these episodes and handy PDFs that you can download, head on over to teachtraffic.com.